So, Eamon, two men have appeared in court today in connection with two unconnected incidents, but both incidents that occurred on Sunday in Dublin, in the capital. Um, what do we know about the first incident? It was in connection with knife attacks on Stoneybatter that generated a lot of coverage.
Yeah, but this is the one that would have, I suppose, hit the headlines in the largest way. The other case was more kind of on social media. But yeah, this is the one that was very frightening for the community in Stoneybatter. Three people suffered injuries to the throats. They were allegedly attacked by a man wielding a box cutter knife, and he was disarmed at the scene and arrested by a gardaí. Now, this chap was it was around 3:00 on Sunday when it happened, and he was in custody almost immediately. There was a very swift response by the gardaí. I'm sure. Having said that, I imagine anyone when something like that is going on, 10 seconds is a lifetime. So even if there was a swift response, it's going to feel like it took a lot longer. But he's been questioned and held in custody up until late last night. Then he was officially charged, and he appeared in Dublin District Court today. Yeah. And this is Gabriel Valladares. He's a 29-year-old Brazilian. And he has an address in Broadstown in the city, which isn't too far away really from Stoneybatter.
So he was charged with 4 offences, and obviously it's an initial district court hearing, so it's kind of in and out is what journalists, I suppose, refer to these hearings. So you don't hear any particular evidence, but we did hear some evidence from the guards who described how he told them when he was arrested. He didn't say this in court, but he told the evidence the guards gave is that he told them this. He said, "I was afraid to be killed." So he was charged with 4 separate offences, is it? Yeah,
so he's charged on 2 counts of assault causing harm, and then he was also 2 charges then relating to possession of a weapon. So he had, it's alleged that he had scissors on him as well as this box cutter knife. So he's been in charge in relation to that. So I mean, the fact that there was a third person injured as well, we're not sure which ones relate to which charges at this stage. It is an early kind of stage. The gardaí said they were going to object to bail, and his solicitor just said, look, we're not actually applying for bail at this stage, but they will reserve the right to do that later on if they want to. But they did ask that he continue to receive medical treatment while he's in being held in custody. And it was mentioned that while he was being held in Garda custody, he needed medical treatment twice from a doctor. But there was no mention of the nature of his medical issues or whatever it was. So we're not sure what that's about.
Yeah.
I suppose he didn't really, when he was in court, he seemed to be quite emotional from the reports we're getting. He cried, had his hands over his face, and it seemed very upset.
Yeah.
But at this stage, it's back until February the 18th.
That's just another few days.
Yeah. I mean, again, until someone consents to a remand, it's going to be at the very minimum 2 weeks every time. But this is a bit shorter, and that'll likely happen, or will happen rather, at Cloverhill District Court, which will be more than likely by video link at that stage. And we'll hear then if there's any more developments in terms of charges being brought against him. But it will take some time for the gardaí to gather their evidence, make their case against him. While these things, some people might think it's very straightforward, and it's a matter of just closing it off, whatever, quickly. But guards are going to have to talk to everybody who's in the area at the time. They're going to obviously have to talk to all the people who suffered injuries, people who came to the raid, people who saw whatever they saw before it happened. I mean, presumably there's also a live investigation going on still.
Yeah.
While this man is being charged, there will be other lines of inquiry. Yeah. The guards will have to eliminate him. Probably, maybe nothing will come of those, but they still have to go through, not the motions, but they still have to go through that process of building up the fullest possible picture of what happened.
And the lengthy part of this is always getting CCTV, and that has to be gotten under warrant, has to be gone, collected and processed. So that's always takes a lot of their time.
And we saw in a recent case in Rathkeale, where there was a man charged with a machete attack, and he won in the appeal on the basis that the guards didn't harvest CCTV in the area, because obviously an individual can't do it themselves for their defence to show, look, it wasn't me. So it's incumbent on the guards to gather all this. And as you say, it can take a long time. It's, they call to a shop, the manager isn't there. sometimes there are all these proprietary systems, they're closed off, they're not that easy access, and it's not easy to copy them, and you have to get technical people in to do it. And again, as you say, they'll need a warrant.
Yeah.
So I mean, it can take it's a long process.
It is. It certainly adds a lot to these cases. Now, not simultaneously, but in a very similar time frame, while the incident occurred in Stoneybatter, not too far away in Ballymun and in North Dublin, there was another incident, and the incidents are totally unconnected. The Stoneybatter and Ballymun incidents are totally unconnected. I suppose the connection is they just happened in the same time frame. But a man has also been brought before the court, a guy called Leon Wright, in connection with that incident. And again, as you said, these incidents were being played live on social media to some extent and being mixed up. So what's Leon Wright been charged with now?
Leon Wright, a 36-year-old with an address in Swords. So he's basically been charged with a whole series of kind of these cash robberies in the area in kind of northwest Dublin. And it's alleged that it was, for instance, €100 worth of cigarettes from a shop in Ballymun, then 150 cash from a Deal's outlet. Then there was 694 from a Finglas pharmacy, €200 taken from an off license, and €100 from the same off license the day before. And he's also charged, I think, as well, in connection with this alleged standoff with armed gardaí, where it's alleged that he was armed with a weapon, with a large knife.
So he's facing weapons charges in connection with the alleged possession of a knife. He's charged with having a 19-centimetre blade at Sandy Hill Gardens in Ballymun. And he's also facing these robbery charges. Again, he didn't get bail. I think the guard said they were going to object to bail, but it wasn't granted in any case.
And I think in this case, his solicitor said, well, we're not looking for bail at this stage either. So, I mean, that'll obviously be put back. Whether or not he'll go look for High Court bail, depending on the charges later, or he can probably make an application at District Court on these type of charges. But, I mean, it sounds like, what's been alleged is serious enough. That there was some of these shopkeepers and people, they were approached by a man who produced a knife, told them to open the till, took the cash from them. And there was quite a series of these robberies, which appears to have ended in this alleged standoff then in a housing estate in Ballymun. And of course there was what appeared to be in a video of that alleged incident was circulated fairly widely all kind of Sunday evening, like across the media. I think a lot of people would have seen that.
Yeah.
So it remains to be seen, of course, what will happen. In relation to any criminal charges against this man.
Yeah, there was a co-accused for one of the robberies with him, a woman called Lisa Hennessy, who was granted bail, and her case was adjourned for further DPP objections.
Yeah, and her, like, it's alleged that she kind of played a more minor role. She stood in the middle of two sets of doors in the pharmacy that was robbed. Basically helped, it was a form of holding the door open, I suppose. And her solicitor described her as a vulnerable lady who was under a lot of pressure, and her personal circumstances were very tragic, including a bereavement. So, I guess we'll hear more in due course, as they say.
Yeah.
As these cases kind of pan out. But because of their, I suppose, high profile nature, they're going to be followed by the media, I think, all the way through to the end, to the conclusion.
They will, and we'll be there to follow them ourselves. So thanks very much, Eamon.
Welcome, Niall.
Robbie Lawler was out of control.
This is Double Cross, the murder of Robbie Lawler.
It was going to be an all-out war with him in the middle of it.
A Crime World special investigation podcast based on my new book, Web of Betrayal, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.